almost like hiding from somebody. Like she was like peeking out the elevator and then trying to get into the elevator and trying to like press the buttons, but the elevator wouldn't move. So it seemed like there was like an invisible force or something following her.
You go into the elevator, you press a button. That doesn't seem unusual until you see that she has pressed more than one button. She's pressing several buttons.
The elevator's not moving. Yeah.
And then she goes to the corner of the elevator, and the way she's looking out is a bit bizarre. And then she's going to the side of the elevator bank where you can't see her. If you were standing outside the elevator, you wouldn't be able to see her. And then she pivots as the elevator door is still not closing. And then she pivots and waves her arm outside the elevator's doors. And she does a quick peekaboo, like a quick look outside real quick, and then sticks her head back in and does that a couple of times.
Yeah, it just seems like she was looking out for someone. She was scared of someone.
She must have felt like she was being followed. Like when I first saw this video, it was so disturbing for me, and I just felt bad for her, but I was just like, it's uncomfortable, man. Yeah. Even talking about this, it makes me feel like, I get the heebie-jeebies.
Lucky Boys Podcast.
The death of Elisa Lam.
Oh my gosh. I heard that.
Yeah.
The one with the documentary on Netflix. The documentary on Netflix,
yeah. There's a huge multi-series about, how did she die in the Cecil Hotel?
That, before the Netflix documentary, that fell on my radar several years. And the first time that I saw it, it freaked me out. It was one of the freakiest stories. Like I had trouble sleeping at night because I couldn't stop thinking about it.
Were you freaked out because of the stories you've heard, or were you freaked out by the video?
Both. The story and the video. Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, this was before there was enough information out there to give clarity. There was less, it was more mysterious because there wasn't as much public information that was easily accessible. So you kind of went with what you have, with the information that was given, which kind of made it really creepy, and it kind of makes you buy into this whole other realm of possibility that you're going, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Was there something sinister at play here? Mm-hmm. Go ahead. I'll let you go. Just explain those of you that living on the rock.
So for people who never heard of Elisa Lam or the Cecil Hotel, so basically we had a hotel guest, Elisa Lam. She was traveling to across the country from her hometown to the West Coast
of Vancouver, Canada.
Yeah, mm-hmm. And she was just like wanted to see the sights.
LA, right? At the famed Cecil Hotel, where there's a lot of murderers, serial killers.
Yeah, Cecil Hotel has its own like kind of diabolical history behind it too. But we can get into that in a bit. But yeah, so she was traveling and just seeing the sights, and you see this weird ass video that comes out, surveillance video, of her in the elevator, walking around just almost like hiding from somebody. Like she was like peeking out the elevator and then trying to get into the elevator and trying to like press the buttons, but the elevator wouldn't move. So it seemed like there was like an invisible force or something following her. So basically she disappeared and nobody could find her body. And the whole story was the investigation was, she couldn't be found. And all of a sudden, the hotel guests, they were drinking the water, something tastes.
Oh, you're skipping a few good parts.
Oh, okay.
People were complaining that the water tasted funny.
Yeah, it was tainted.
They sent up someone of the hotel staff to go and check outside of the roof to see what was going on at I guess, what do you call those big water tanks, right?
Yep.
And he climbed up, and when he opened I believe the hatch was open, right? And when he looked down, he sees a naked body floating. Mm-hmm. And there she was. So then when they looked back to see what happened, the only footage that was made public, at least, was Elisa Lam going into the elevator, pressing a lot of buttons, and then had really odd behavior, which seems very unusual. You go in and you go into the elevator, you press a button. That doesn't seem unusual until you see that she has pressed more than one button. She's pressing several buttons.
The elevator's not moving. Yeah.
And then she goes to the corner of the elevator, and the way she's looking out is a bit bizarre. And then she's going to the side of the elevator bank where you can't see her. If you were standing outside the elevator, you wouldn't be able to see her. And then she pivots as the elevator door is still not closing. And then she pivots and waves her arm outside the elevator's doors. And she does a quick peekaboo, like a quick look outside real quick, and then sticks her head back in and does that a couple of times.
Yeah, it just seems like she was looking out for someone. She was scared of someone.
She must have felt like she was being followed. Mm-hmm. That was obvious. Like if I'm watching, it's obvious that somehow she is convinced that someone is following her and she's trying to hide.
Right. Yeah.
Now, the bizarre behavior was like, who acts like that in an elevator? With the arm waving, why would you press all these buttons? That's an odd thing. Like if someone's following me, I'm running in the elevator, pressing one button, which is the floor I want to go to, and maybe I'll press the closed door button.
Yeah.
Real quick, like, but I wouldn't be pressing like 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the numbers are.
Right. She pressed all the buttons, I think.
That's what's the bizarre. So, and then trying to tie this piece together, some people said that there were complaints about her prior to finding her body and prior to the elevator video, that I guess like a hostel setup where there's multiple guests that share a room.
Yeah.
And a couple of them complained about her, some odd behavior, and they didn't feel comfortable being in the same room as her.
Yeah. I heard. Yeah, I read that she was writing notes to her like bunkmates saying like, I don't want you here. Get out. And so yeah, people complained about her. So the hotel staff actually put her in a different room, I think.
By herself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the thing about the Cecil Hotel. It's very funky. It was built in the 1920s, but then there's two hotels in one hotel. So one was for the hostel guests, and then the other part of it was for long-term guests, people. And it's located in Skid Row, so it's not like a very high-end area. It's pretty dangerous.
You're right.
Yeah.
And as it aged, it kind of deteriorated and started beginning to have this folklore about it, where it was somewhere that was inexpensive to stay, where it could accommodate several different types of people. And it would also, because of that, it would attract
unsavory characters
of society where it could potentially be dangerous. I mean, did you see, what was that? Who was that serial killer?
Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker.
I believe he stayed at the Cecil Hotel.
He lived there. Yeah.
So it does have quite a fascinating history when you look back at it. Now, back to Elisa Lam. She was very active, I believe, in Tumblr, right?
Yeah, she wrote daily journals. So
right. And she seemed quite normal in those journals that they shot. And the photos of her, she seemed like a normal, everyday girl.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, she was into boys, her cute. I mean, perfectly normal for someone her age. Wanted, has a bucket list, wanted to travel. But here's the kicker. There's a debate. There's some people that saying, wow, this is sinister. Something happened in a cover up. There's that conspiracy, right? And there's another side to it saying, oh, it was this supernatural thing at the Cecil Hotel that caused it, right? That was probably the catalyst for all this. And we could go deeper into that. And the third point, people say there's a reasonable explanation for this. She was bipolar and she was off her meds.
Yeah.
And because of that caused her to be paranoid, where she thought that she was being followed, so that she did everything she could to kind of get away from people. And which led her to climb up to but here's what's kind of freaky. Like, she climbed up, supposedly going up to that roof, to that water tank. It was like locked, or it said do not enter or something. And going through like a small narrow window was actually very challenging too. And she was able to do all that without really getting hurt. And then climbing into the water tank to hide. Like, why would you climb into a water tank to hide though?
I mean, like you said, there was a normal, possible explanation. And I'm one of those people who, like, there's gotta be like some reasoning behind that, right? And when you're like, let's say, I don't think like
do you think like a sinister reason, or you're saying like a perfect, reasonable explanation, and it was really her being off her as a result of her being off her meds?
Yeah, so perfectly explanation for it, because she was diagnosed with schizophrenia. I mean, and she was off her meds. We didn't know about like the extent of her schizophrenia until like later on, where a lot of it was explained. But if someone who is seeing hallucinations and things like that, I would think like, okay, and I would be like running away, trying to
what
get
are
away
some of
from
those symptoms when you're schizophrenic?
people like hearing voices, seeing things that are not there.
No.
Yeah. I mean, think about some of these. I don't want to stigmatize mental illness, but when you think about some of the serial killers out there, a lot of them talk about, oh, I've been hearing voices in my head to tell me to kill people.
Ooh, all right. So here's So for those of you, wow.
And I think there's different levels of schizophrenia.
Right. So schizophrenia is a psychiatric disorder characterized by continuous or relapsing episodes of psychosis. Major symptoms include hallucinations, typically hearing voices, delusions, and disorganized thinking. I could kind of see that in that video.
Mm-hmm.
I could see
she was acting very strange in that video.
I did see. I mean, but let's say hearing voices, hallucination, like the way she was behaving, waving her arms. That could explain that, and the disorganized thinking, pressing a bunch of buttons, right? That other symptoms include social withdrawal, hence being alone in a room.
Yeah,
decreased emotional expression. Well, she seems to be very expressive in that clip that we saw, and apathy. Symptoms typically come on gradually, begin in young adulthood, and in many cases never resolve.
And I think like a lot of the conversation was about the strangeness and not really about like the mental issues that she was going through. And it is sad that it led up to the point where her body was found in that water tank. And the conversation wasn't centered around her mental illness, because she actually talked about it in her like internet journals.
Right.
People, she was very open about it.
And I believe she had a sister, a sibling, that also said that she used to hide under her bed when she felt like she was being followed.
Yeah. I think the police did their job, but I think that they were overlooking the fact that, that mental illness was a big contributor to what happened to her.
So you think that's it? There was no foul play?
No foul play. I think people
so
were
you don't
looking
think it's
for
something supernatural as well?
Nah. I mean, like, you look at the video, it's like, it kind of is self-explanatory without the information that you have, right? It looks strange. But then when in my mind is like, okay, something is off about her. There has to be some sort of mental issue explanation. And then when, everything was kind of revealed that she was off her medication for...
Why was she off her meds?
Who knows how long, right?
But why was she off her meds?
I think
if she was aware of her illness, wouldn't she want to stay on it? Did they say why?
I think from the impression that I got was like she was trying to escape that life where taking medication every day, being kind of
I get chills every time I talk about her, man. Like I get chills, like goose pimples all over me, man. Yeah. Like when I first saw this video, it was so disturbing for me, and I just felt bad for her. But I was just like, it's uncomfortable, man. Yeah. Even talking about this, it makes me feel like, I get the heebie-jeebies, man.
It's so freaky though, it's like she was alone.